All right, so we're back. This is Downtown Lakers. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Ethan Shirazi. It's been a minute. Glad to have you here. Last time we were here, I believe it was the Timberwolves. So obviously,
That's
that
right.
went
It's
south.
been a
But
while.
it's been a while. You got a new player on the Lakers, DeAndre Ayton. He signed a 2-year, $16.6 million deal with a player opt out in his second year. We're going to talk about Ayton. We're going to talk about the newest Laker. Before him, Jake LaRavia. We're also going to be talking about some things that went down, like where, I don't know, the Lakers got new ownership. Adu Thero was drafted 36th overall at Arkansas. And the potential of adding more players like a Cam Whitmore via a wild sign and trade. And of course, I got you can't see it, but I got the Kansas Jayhawk banner off to the side. Going out and
Oh,
getting
there you go.
LeBron a Jayhawk in the form of Andrew Wiggins potentially. So a lot of stuff here on tap. We appreciate you guys for being here, whether you're here on Twitter or YouTube. We are definitely trying to get this YouTube popping. So if you like the Lakers and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, be sure to do that because we are growing slowly but surely. And obviously the growth was very stagnant because we haven't been live in a while. But we are back. How you feeling, Ethan?
Man, just glad it's the offseason, bro. Just get to just get away from the playoffs from the last season, and then get into the offseason, get into signing new players, and then get back into Laker basketball this next October. So ready to go, man.
No, I'm with you there, man. It's good to be back. Like talking Lakers basketball. The rest of the league kind of annoys me, but that's neither here nor there. Some of these trades, man, are just wild. But look, really excited about DeAndre Ayton, so we'll start there. The Lakers got him. There were a lot of teams apparently interested. Basically, if you've been living under a rock, he was with Portland. Portland basically said that they didn't want him anymore and he didn't want to be there. So they did a mutual buyout in his contract. So he gets paid plenty of money this year. And that's why he's willing to take less money to come to the Lakers because he's already getting paid plenty of money from the buyout. So the Lakers came to the offer and, there were a lot of teams interested, including the Pacers, who were just in the finals. They surprisingly lost Miles Turner to Milwaukee. So all of a sudden now Miles Turner gone. You're thinking, well, the Pacers, like they start coming up, this could be a problem. And keep in mind, if the Lakers didn't get Ayton, they were running out of opportunities. You already had the draft. There's not a ton of centers left, although there is stuff out there that they are trying to get Al Horford still. They're still trying to go after Lopez. We'll see what ends up happening. But regardless, the big thing here is they brought in DeAndre Ayton, who I'll go as far as to say I think he's a much better player than giving credit for. I know he's got, some sort of, issue, I guess, with keeping the motor always running on the hot side. But at the same time, I think he's around the right players. And ultimately, I think he's going to work out. And more importantly here, they go and they check this box as early on in free agency as it gets. So this is big time for the Lakers. I think they had Ayton last year. They could have made a run, but that's neither here nor there. The point being, right now they're gearing up for trying to get back to the NBA Finals, and it's been a minute, but I wouldn't be surprised if they've done enough to this point to feel at least good about that.
Absolutely, I agree. And then with the addition of Ayton now we're able to have a 7-footer that can be a starter, obviously, and then. Rob Pelinka has a lot more work to do to get more centers, potentially Al Horford, potentially, 17 deal that can land another guy. So we still have a lot of work to do with this offseason, which is still in the works. So, stay tuned, Laker Nation. So we have, a lot of Laker players hopefully in the works soon. So that's the whole bottom deal now.
Yeah. So I think with Ayton, you look at a player that you could argue last year was down year for him, probably the worst year of his career. But he's 26, 27 years old. He's young.
Yeah.
He'd be
same age as Luka, and then
he'd be playing with Luka and LeBron. So, but I guess before we even talk about that, where are you at on LeBron? Because it's very interesting. There's still talk out there, despite the fact he opted in, which normally you'd think, oh, a player opts in to stay with the team, you'd think fine, like that's good to go. But all this stuff about the Lakers not, really focusing on what LeBron has to say or what he thinks about the team and just kind of doing, they're not consulting with him. The whole Cavaliers debacle where, people were saying he was going to go to Cleveland because he wore a hat that said something about being home.
Right.
So yeah, there's, obviously there's a lot of different things. We're talking about the NBA's first billionaire athlete. So there's always going to be stuff related to LeBron. Me personally, I have a feeling he's just going to stay. I don't think that there's going to be a trade. I don't think anything's coming down the pipeline for this season. Next year, that remains to be seen. But I think DeAndre Ayton does enough where LeBron's like, he's not going to be, demanding to get out of this situation.
Right, I agree. I mean, here's my deal. I think right now it's the beginning of the end for LeBron, just because he's 41, he's entering his 23rd NBA season, which is a record. And then I mean, obviously last season or the year before that, he took a pay cut to help us get new roster acquisitions with different players and whatnot. But like I said, he's 41 years old. He has another year or 2 years max, in my opinion. So I mean, he could have taken a pay cut, but him and his agent Rich Paul wanted to get the max dollars to end his career, but that's respectable. But at the same time, 50 million is a lot of money. So 50 million could be used to get a lot of new acquisitions, like with new centers, new anything that we needed. But that's fine, honestly. But as long as he retires Laker, that's fine. But if we do trade him, then it has to be somewhere that can give us a lot of depth.
Yeah, I do understand people's frustrations. Normally, I kind of side with the player. I do kind of feel like you can't have it both ways. If, LeBron's camp, of course, it always comes from Rich Paul. If he's going to come out and say, well, yeah, LeBron doesn't know if he can win with this roster or, he has concerns. Well, that's great. Then don't take the option and work on a deal that is a discount, if you will. And, I remember Kobe talking about this, feeling like when, you have this idea of like, oh yeah, he's going to take a discount to stay or whatever. It's kind of this thing out there, this narrative that was created to kind of almost give the ownership a cop out in like paying players. Cause then all of a sudden you get the fan base and then the fan base wants you to take less. My thing is this. I understand everybody has a price, and LeBron could honestly be at the point where he wouldn't even mind retiring. So this money is what's keeping him drived and like willing to stay. But at the same time, if you are going to complain about the roster construction, again, LeBron has not openly done this. It's been Rich Paul talking about the roster construction. But if you're going to do that, then there has to be some sort of, a give and a take. Like, I don't really agree with the idea of being vocal about that while then at the same time you're picking up, a $50 million option. I do think that there could have been other ways to save money. And if you really care about winning a title, LeBron James taking even 10 million less or 20 million less could have really given the Lakers a lot of opportunity. So I do think I understand how people see it on both sides. I don't think there's a right and a wrong. I just think it's important to see both sides. On one side, I look at LeBron. If this is what it's going to take for him to stay before, and he doesn't want to retire, if he gets paid this money, fine. That is what it is. That's his cost. And he's obviously earned the money. But then at the same time, if there's going to be a complaint about the roster construction and, oh, you're not doing enough. It's like, well, we're paying you all that money. So at the end of the day, like, we need more from you. Like, we need you to, and this is ultimately, why you look at like a Tom Brady in the NFL and why it's almost like, yeah, okay, Tampa, he took his money, but when he was with the New England Patriots, it was pay cut after pay cut after pay cut because all he wanted to do was win. So I feel like when you have those examples in the ether, you tend to, be held a little bit more accountable or maybe criticized more than you normally would. And, that's just kind of how I feel about that. I don't feel like anybody's in the wrong for feeling one way or the other.
Right. I mean, like I said, it's players have an option to take a pay cut, but initially LeBron's about to retire. He wants to get as much as he get. But at the same time, he wants to be on a contender, which hopefully we're going to be a contender this year. But there have been talks about him possibly getting traded to a contender, either if it's Dallas or Cleveland or whatever for trade. But hopefully that won't be the case. But if that's the case, then that's fine, unless we get different players in return, which would help the team. But at the same time, I do want LeBron to be a Laker to retire, and he does as well. So we'll see what the final result is, but he'll be a Laker from his retirement for sure.
Yeah, and we appreciate you, Jack and Matthew here in the comment section.
Appreciate you guys, man.
If you guys wanted another center, are y'all down for Al Horford? I'm definitely down for Al Horford.
Absolutely, man.
I think that'd be a great fit, but I guess we'll see. I mean, they don't have a lot to offer. Again, kind of going back to what we were just talking about. No one complains if there's no one else to add. No one complains if money was an issue, but when money does become an issue, you're going to look at the guys that are making the top dollar. So that's where that came from. BC, how's it going? Ayton will be like Bynum for the 2009 to 2010 Lakers. Hopefully he stays healthy. Because that was Bynum's biggest issue. But yeah, no, we appreciate you guys. It seems like there's a decent amount of people in here right now. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. I will also say this. There's a lot of concern that they let Dorian Finney-Smith go.
From what I heard, bro, I guess the front office had disagreement with Dorian and his camp regarding a contract or whatnot, and then he ended up paying the Rockets. Like we said earlier in the show, I guess we're working on a 17th deal, which would be a historic deal that could possibly include DFS and a sign and trade deal that can maybe bring in Cam Whitmore from Houston. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. And then the reason why we took Jake LaRavia is just because we replaced him as a wing, which is a pretty good pick. I mean, everyone was saying, who's this guy? But I've actually seen some highlights and other stats about him. And man, he actually looks pretty good. Good young player. He can stretch the floor. He's long. He can score inside, mid range. Good defense. So I think that's a pretty good pickup right there. I mean, it does have to lose Dorian just because he's a really good locker presence guy and whatnot. But it's a business, so we just gotta let that go. But we got more things to handle, which is get more players in the free agency. So
no, I have mixed feelings. I didn't love the LaRavia pickup, but clearly they saw something, and I can't necessarily fault them for it. Last year was kind of a down year for him from the 3-point range. You're talking about 38% instead of a guy that was shooting in the 40s. So that's a little, he went down a little bit. Didn't have the splash games that he had. I also think maybe it wasn't a good fit. Sacramento has proven in the past they can't develop anybody. So, there's also that in there. But no, when you look at his game log, right, and you look at the points, you can see. I mean, he's had games in the past. He dropped 32. Back in 2024, he dropped 29, 28, 25, 21. So he's shown you, before when he gets more playing time, those games were all 40 minutes, 39 minutes, 40 minutes. So he's shown you that he has something there. In those games, one of them, he went 8 for 11 from 3. Now this is when he was with Memphis, right? It was not a fit apparently in Sacramento, or at least not offensively. He was definitely taking a little bit of a step back offensively, got more of an opportunity, with Memphis. But look, I felt like that was a lot of money to give to a guy that hasn't really proven anything. So that was my concern. And then losing Dorian Finney-Smith, I have mixed feelings because I understand how important he is. But at the same time, he's getting up there in age. And the Lakers, I agree, they're trying to save money for 2027. And
next player.
It's not like this is an organization that is against spending money. They're trying to save cap space for 2027. So they didn't want to give him a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal. They wanted to give him a 2-year deal. And he basically said no. And look, he has every right to do that. And the Lakers have every right to stay within the confines of what they've set up. And I think it's smart because I understand he's important, but I also think he's getting overpaid too. I understand that's the way the NBA works now, but you know, Dorian Finney-Smith making what, 11 million a year? I mean, that's a lot. So it's interesting. Like, you understand, definitely they're losing a good player, a guy that definitely, you know, we already know fits. And then they're paying LaRavia $6 million a year, but LaRavia is a 2-year deal. DeAndre Ayton's a 2-year deal. And let's be honest here, there's no way Ayton is going to be here in the second year on that deal. He might be back, but he's not playing for that deal. That is just kind of for show.
Let's hope it'll be a long-term thing, because Lakers are in need for a long-term center, and then, you know, that can play for a long time along with Luka. So hopefully either if he opts in or opts out in that second-year deal, you know, we'll see what happens, but it's still early for to that point. But like I said, we just need a long-term center that can play for a long time with us and win, hopefully, multiple championships. So that's the bottom line there. But man, did you see about that potential Andrew Wiggins trade?
Yeah, it's interesting. Another, you know, mixed feelings, right? Love Andrew Wiggins, obviously big Jayhawk fan. I remember when he chose Kansas and everybody was shocked, except for me, because I kind of felt like he was 100% going there. But no, he chose Kansas, and, you know, he had a good freshman year. Was a little disappointing, and obviously they lost early on when Embiid went down. But Wiggins has had kind of an interesting career. He's been what you would call, in a sense, kind of underwhelming based on what was expected of him. But he's found things that he can be good at, and he's still a very good player. My issue here,
still young.
Yeah, my issue, it's very simple with Andrew Wiggins, right? So this is a guy who right now is 30 years old, which is crazy to say because it feels like he's been in the league forever.
Right.
And he can give you about 19 a game, and he can give you about 4 rebounds a game, and he can dish out 3 steals a game, or 3 assists, and he'll get a steal a game. But the thing about Wiggins, and, you know, he could also get you a block per game. The thing about Wiggins is, while he's a well-rounded player, he's a good defender, he's 30. So I'm not sure if I necessarily see the point of trading Rui and a pick.
Yeah, that's too much.
And connect.
Talk about Lakers tax there, man.
I feel like that's just ridiculous. I mean, I have no issue asking for it because the Lakers can then say no, but I just don't understand if they do that. I feel like that's a gross. That's a gross. What's the word I'm looking for? That, in my opinion, that would be
like a terrible deal.
I feel like that would be. I don't even have the word. It would be annoying. Because I like Andrew Wiggins a lot, and that's the thing. I'm conflicted. Irresponsible is the word I'm looking for. I think it'd be irresponsible. You know, you're focused on the future. You are, whether people want to admit or not. You got a 27-year-old in Ayton. You got Luka, who you're going to pay probably in August, right?
Yeah.
You just showed that you care about the draft because you just tried to trade up twice and get Thero, right? So the reality is that you do care about the future. And by the way, the Lakers are set up very well for the future because they have guys like Dončić, they have Reeves, they have Connect, right? Then you have Bronny James, you have Rui, you have Jared Vanderbilt, you have Thero. So I like how they're set up for the future. Obviously, they don't have the draft picks you might like, but they're looking at a max spot in 2027. And it just feels to me like this would be just a little bit too much over pursuing. Andrew Wiggins for a first rounder and
I don't know about
Rui
that. That's too much.
Still even feels like too much. But when you factor in Dalton Connect, that's when I just walk out the door. I'm not interested because I don't see why I have to give you Rui and Connect and a first round pick. When, say what you will about Wiggins, like, you know, yes, he's a very good player, but Rui's also a good player. Okay, Rui is averaging
phenomenally well in a roster too. He's been playing really well, like almost every game. He's a great player that can, you know, stretch the floor along with play mid range and go inside and everything you need defense. But at the same time, Wiggins is mostly just like I don't explain it, just like mostly like a like all-around player, but really just a little bit different. But if you get Wiggins, our defense, I mean, sorry, our offense is gonna be a lot different than last time. But if it does happen, I hope we don't give up a lot of those guys. But I'd just rather keep our guys where we have right now because we got a lot of good depth right now. I mean, decently depth.
Yeah.
Like the idea of a potential Drew Holiday buy with Portland and possibly sign with the Lakers. I'm down with that.
Just
If
taking
that
everybody
happens,
from Portland.
oh, I'm down. Trust me. Drew Holiday is a phenomenal defender that can, play good on ball defense, just like kind of like Alex Caruso type player. Um, but yeah, if that comes to the point where he's buyout, oh yeah, we should go for him, no doubt.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting there. I wouldn't be against it. I would like to see them probably add first and foremost, and I know right now he's debating between the Lakers, the Warriors, and retirement. I think it's Horford, because you still can keep the long-term view on things. You can still keep this thing about being young for the future, but you can also bring in guys to help you win now. And Horford doesn't cost you any of your young guys. You don't have to go out there and be like, okay, I'm signing Horford now. I have to give up I have to give up Connect. I have to give up Bronny James or whatever. You don't have to do any of that. So that's my thing about Horford. But like, and this is really interesting here because John is bringing up a really good point. They're saying Horford is going to wait to make his choice. So at the same time,
looks like he is for now. Yep.
You don't want to close yourself off to other guys and wait for him because he could choose the Warriors or retire, and then the other guys get signed. And I always liken this to you go back to the Rams,
Kawhi
Von
Leonard.
Millard.
Or Von, whatever.
you go to Von Miller, and the Rams waited and waited and waited, and then there was nobody left at the position to replace him when he left. So that is unfortunately the risk you run, and this happens in sports all the time. And this is why it's not easy to be a general manager. It's not easy to do any of this because you have to manage. You have to really, and sometimes you have to have some luck. Sometimes you have to have some hope. Oh yeah, this guy just happens to decide today, and it gives us flexibility. Now we can move forward because we know the type of money that's allocated now, and we can just use the rest of that money because now we can really focus all of our stuff on this guy. That's the thing. John says, I'd wait. I do think Horford is worth it.
I think so too, honestly. Like, he's a really good stretch player. He can spread the floor, play defense, play inside. Like, if Luka has the ball off the pick and roll with like Horford or Rui, anybody, he can stretch the floor, like get a kick out for three in the corner and score like that. Like, I've seen many plays like that in Boston, and fits just well with the offense that we have right now. So I think he would be a really good option for backup. So hopefully that'll be the case. If not, we'll go for another guy.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. I actually think I would wait because there's not a ton out there. It's not like the early part of free agency. So I think I would wait. Stretch fives are cheese on offense in playoffs. Yeah, that's another thing. Horford can he can swing and hit that three like crazy, and he used to not be able to do that. So he's really improved his range. Jack, I always told people that the Luka trade was more about the next few years than last year. They want to build a hot destination with a strong, younger foundation.
I agree.
To compete for the next several years. I 100% agree.
Oh yeah, that was the whole point.
You go back and remember LaMarcus Aldridge, and back in the days you had to try to impress these guys to come, and none of them wanted to come play. Well, that's going to be different if you have a healthy and fit and ready to go Luka, and you have a vision, and I think people will sign up for that.
Yeah, because especially when last season was just like a half year with Luka when the whole shock trade happened, but now we have a full season of Luka Dončić on the Los Angeles Lakers with a full season of LeBron James and them together. So hopefully the next few seasons, once LeBron retires, it'll attract many other free agents to come to LA, play with Lakers, especially with Luka, big market. So that's a really attracting feature right there. So we got a lot more years to come, and then hopefully a lot more championships too.
Yeah. No, of course. I think that's a big thing there.
Obviously, speaking of Luka, man,
we
got extension day coming up on August 2nd, so we got hopefully, which I think Luka will sign an extension with the Lakers, 229 million for 4 years. So can't wait for that day too.
I think he's going to sign the extension. I
Oh yeah,
don't
no
think he
doubt.
plays anywhere else. I think
No,
he's going
no,
to stay with the Lakers. I
he's
think
loyal, man.
he's loyal. He's one of the guys that I think he wanted to be like a Kobe for the Mavs. I think he wanted to play his whole career there, and it went south. And now he's like, okay, well, this team wanted me. They went out. They did what they had to get me, and now, you know, I that's how I see it. But
Yeah,
yeah, John, so many teams praying Luka. Yeah, exactly. A lot
yeah,
of teams are going to be praying. Um, well, and I like this too because this is in a lot of ways kind of what we're looking at is that you get
exactly.
Shohei
Star blood.
Ohtani.
You have a really good point.
Yeah, you know, on the Dodgers, you get Shohei Ohtani, and now all of a sudden it's a little different because we're talking about geographically. Now it's not just everybody wants to come play for the Dodgers. It's like all of the, you know, Japanese and Korean baseball players want to come over, and international
Right.
players are more interested because he's huge all over the world. But yeah, Luka's also pretty big all over the world. So,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, I guess that works too.
Especially in a bigger market with like a big name, the Lakers, and just like Shohei Ohtani play with a big name, just like the Dodgers, and Aaron Judge with the Yankees, so on and so on. But um, you know, let's say Luka somehow got to the Clippers, and no one wants to come to the Clippers. But you know how that works.
Yeah, I mean, who cares about the Clippers,
By
right?
the way,
We
boys, you know you like new ownership? Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, I'm a diehard Dodger fan myself, so I'm very happy Mark Walters own the Lakers now. So we had a lot more deeper pocket now, deeper pockets now. So we're able to sign new players and do a lot more stuff with the money. And you know, I thought it was a really good run for the Genie Bus and Dr. Bus era. So man, I miss those guys, but it's time for a new era.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to add because you know I'm not a Dodger fan, but like from what you've been saying and
Yeah,
what I've seen, right? Like the Dodgers are just they've grown accustomed to just spending whatever it takes, right? And I
right.
mean, if that's the case, I mean, it's not the same thing because
It's
baseball there's
yeah.
no salary cap,
I was about to say that, right?
uh, you know, so that's the thing is that I think you'll see some perks of having this owner, but you won't be able to see all of it because it's not one of those things where you know the late like for instance the NBA isn't dealing with like no salary cap, you know. So I mean, we'll see. I'm sure you can still get plenty of perks out of it, and it is good to have because you know that like there's not going to be a trade of a player because the owner just doesn't want to pay money. That's one thing you know, but also the owner showing. I guess you could also look at it like the way he showed like how he cared about the Dodgers and you know how he spent over there. You could look at it as like, yeah, I'm not going to let it ever get like how it did, and you know there's kind of this expectation of greatness, and you know maybe JJ Redick's job just got a little bit more intense because you know if he doesn't pan out, you know this owner won't be
Right.
you know waiting. You know what I mean?
And plus, I mean, honestly, like I expect a lot of change to be to be made. Like, you know, like they said, Genie Buss is going to be like the governor still. But then again, they said the same thing to Mark Cuban in the Mavericks when the ownership took over. So, then it's pretty much like let him go. But you know, if you guys don't know, actually the Laker new ownership will take over the next season. So it's not finalized until the next season for the whole payment of 10 billion. So still got a long season to go, and then the ownership will take over this next season.
Okay, so it will be next season.
It'll be next season. Yeah, it's not gonna be finalized until next season.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
then we won't see anything this season, I
right.
don't think. Do you think that 7-team trade actually gets done?
I don't know, honestly. I never heard anything like that, so it's gonna be a little crazy if that actually happens. But if that happens, hopefully we're involved, but nothing crazy that we're gonna get given up or whatnot. But hopefully we get something in return with like Dorian Finney-Smith signing or trade deal. I'm sorry, sign trade deal. Hopefully if that happens, but um, hopefully hopefully we get like at least a draft pick or someone in return like Cam Moore or anything like that.
I feel like the Lakers are trying to get Richards and Whitmore. I feel like that's why, like, because you've seen that. I know the Suns are a part of that.
Right.
Um, you had to have seen that on Twitter where they were
Oh
talking
yeah.
about the
Right.
Lakers being interested in Nick Richards. I don't think it's a surprise that like, oh yeah, they're interested in all these guys that are on the teams that are in the trade. So I'm sure this thing could be convoluted. My only question, I guess, is why even do this? Like, I don't see the benefit of making a trade this complicated. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I can say on the trade aspect. Do you have anything else that you want to discuss? Because I think it's interesting for sure what has happened.
I mean, I think we pretty much covered everybody. I mean, we covered DeAndre and we covered Jay Laravia. We covered the trade and whatnot, but we just got to wait for more players to come on in the Lakers, and then we'll come back on the pod to talk about more Laker basketball.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, right now, the Lakers updated roster, you got point guard Luka, you got Gabe Vincent, you got Bronny James. Then shooting guard Austin Reeves, you got Connect, who can play kind of all over, and Jordan Goodwin. You got LeBron James and Jake LaRavia. You got Rui. You got Jared Vanderbilt. You got Adu Thero. And then you got DeAndre Ayton and Maxi Kleba. So it's not a finished product. I think they're missing
got a lot more work to do.
Yeah, I think they're missing a center. I think they'd probably want to add another guard. They're probably going to move a guy like Gabe Vincent. And then maybe another wing, I would say. But aside from that, I think if they got Whitmore, and they got Horford, that would be, if they got Whitmore and they got Nick Richards, that also would be
like a Nick Claxton via trade. So
that would be cool. I've always been high on him. So
right, same with me.
Yeah, so that's going to do it. We appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that thumbs up button on YouTube if you're there. Also, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode or tune in late to an episode. If you're on YouTube, do us a favor and go and subscribe over, or excuse me, if you're on Twitter, do us a favor and go and subscribe over on YouTube. We'd really appreciate. We're trying to build this thing up. So be sure to check that out. Link is actually below on the Twitter video that is live right now. So be sure to do that. But that's going to do it from us, and we'll see you guys next time.